It's kind of weird to think that they were making Nintendo games before Nintendo. Now, we here in the United States, we got our NES in 1985 in some select areas, but, widely across the United States in 1986. While the Famicom was released in 1983 in Japan. While here in the United States, they're talking about like the big video game crash of 1983, while in Japan, they released the Famicom, which would become the NES, which would become essentially the greatest game system of all time. Purely my opinion, of course. And with that, a lot of those early games that came out for the Famicom did come out in the United States. Not all of them made it over. The launch titles for the Famicom, you're talking about Donkey Kong. You're talking about Donkey Kong Jr. You're talking about Popeye. All three amazing games that we did get eventually. But here are some games that were just stuck in Japan. Usually I go by year, but this time I want to combine 2 years because, again, 1983, there's only a couple of games that came out. So combining 83 to 84 at least. I'm not covering all of the games that didn't make it over, but at least some of the ones that maybe we could have seen. I've been on YouTube for a hot minute, and there are some people who are still discovering my channel, which I think is the coolest thing ever. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It does a world of wonder for my channel, and I appreciate it. And it's free. And you can subscribe to as many channels as you want, so you may as well subscribe to this one too. Well, starting with Gomoku Narabe, which is kind of like it's the game of Go. Now, I know this game mostly because I'm a huge anime fan, so watching Hikaru no Go, I was like, oh, I've seen that before, like in shows and anime and TV and whatever, at least as far as Japanese shows go, but never really knew how to play it. And this one's a little different, though. This one's more of it's almost like a Connect 4. You have to get 4 in a row. You think Othello, it's not Othello. You think Go, and maybe the game of Go is on here, but every time I've tried to play this game, it's always been that Connect 4, and when you Connect 4, then you win. Again, this is early Famicom. They're just trying to do things where it's like, for us it would be like if they had checkers, chess, things like that. So in Japan, a game like this made perfect sense for you to get used to having to use a controller, having to use a D-pad, having to use, buttons and stuff like that. And anybody can play it, and you could even do 2-player on this, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who grew up playing this game way back in 1983 for the Famicom. Oh my goodness, what do you think? Is it Mahjong? Well, it's Mahjong. Okay, so this game may not have come out in the United States because Mahjong really wasn't a thing in the United States, especially for the NES era. There are a bunch of other Mahjong games that would come out along the way. I'll just cover this first one just because it came out in 1983. Literally just called Mahjong. That's all it's called. And if you're thinking that weird kind of pyramid tile remove the things, yeah, that's like Mahjong Solitaire. That's its own thing. There was a time where I kind of knew how to play this game. It was during my college days when I played a whole lot of import Sega Saturn games. And I actually kind of, was pretty decent at it to an extent, at least versus the computer. But those days are far behind me, and I don't have a clue what I'm doing with this game anymore. I'm sure I could relearn, and maybe that's not a bad idea, because there's a ton of Mahjong games out there, and I remember enjoying actually playing this game. Not this game specifically, but just Mahjong in general. But again, you're trying to adapt a new audience, like, oh, here's Mahjong for the NES. Great graphics for an NES game. I don't know if you could exactly do something like this for the 2600. And I'm sure they had Mahjong games for other Japanese consoles this and before, probably. But this just looks like a standard staple. This is all you need. Love to see it. And maybe that'll be a 2026 resolution for myself, is to relearn how to play Mahjong. We'll see. Popeye no Eigo Asobi, I think that's how you say that. This is really cool. Like they had Donkey Kong Jr. Math, which they also had in Japan, they had Popeye teaches you English, if that makes sense. This is super cool. This is more of a learning game, just like Donkey Kong Jr. Math was. If you're not familiar with this, I highly, highly, highly recommend checking this out, especially if you're just learning Japanese and all that. My katakana isn't what it used to be, for sure. But what happens is you get the hearts, so the English word is that many letters, and it tells you what the word is right above it. And always in simple, whether it be katakana, hiragana, it'll tell you what it is. Fortunately, so many words are borrowed, so if you can kind of sound it out, you can end up spelling what the word is, and it'll move on to the next word and move on to the next word. Again, my katakana is kind of out of practice here, but tomato, well, that's tomato. Perfect, I can spell tomato. It's funny, this is a Japanese game, a Japanese tool to teach Japanese kids how to, it's teaching them English. It's how to spell in English, or what the English words are for these certain words. And I liked using it for the opposite way. I liked using it was like, can I sound it out? Do I know what that is? And then I can spell it out. And hey, if not, I can kind of, just guess letters. The more letters you guess, the more Bluto punches the ball, which ends up hitting Sweepy, which is hilarious. Now, all these words are katakana, unfortunately. And sometimes there's other words too. I chose food for the category in this section, and I remember one of the times it just said momo, which is Japanese for peach. So I liked those. These ones, still fun to learn, but still. And they also had another mode too. This is a 2-player mode. You could play it as a 1-player, I suppose. Bluto won't go anywhere. And it shows you the 3 words on the side, and you have to collect the letters that spell that word. Not very efficient. I mean, the letters are just kind of chaotically moving like left and right and stuff like that, and sometimes you pick up the wrong letter, to advance the word, and if that happens, you got to start all over again, so that's kind of annoying. But what a fun idea. What a fun idea that they would have a learn how to speak English, or learn how to, spell words in English game for the Famicom. Nuts and Milk. Well, it's one of the more unfortunate titles of games, At least here in the United States. In Japan, it's probably no big deal. This is a cutesy kind of game here. You got you, and then this creepy other person who tries to just, get you, tag you, basically. And you just got to pick up the fruit and avoid the dude and climb these little things here. I like it when you fall and you're kind of like crumpled and you have to like jump back up into whatever. You get all the fruit, the house opens up, you find your sweetie or whatever, and move on to the next stage. This game also features a level editor, which was kind of fun. Super simple style game, Nuts and Milk. Alright, Devil World, man, I wish we would have had this game in the United States. I understand why we didn't. I mean, the word devil's already in it. And it has the crosses and all that too. I mean, if they had to scrub the cross from Link's shield, certainly they couldn't get away with having this game. From Shigeru Miyamoto, by the way. So you get that Shigeru Miyamoto charm with something like this. What's it compare it to? Well, a little Pac-Man-ish, where you have to eat the dots, but to eat the dots, you have to be carrying a cross at all times. Fortunately, there's crosses all over the board here. And the board keeps changing. It keeps rotating. It keeps rotating. It keeps moving. The devil on the top just kind of tells it direction to go. And you had to go through and eat the dots. When you have the cross, you can also shoot these fireballs, which will, attack the enemies as well. Once you have all the dots eaten on the stage, then it turns into the second part of the stage, which is now you have to get the books, the Bibles, or whatever. You have to get those and put them back into that spot right in the middle. And that's kind of how you exercise the devil, so to speak. Turn it back into a bat or something like that, and move on from there. Devil World, super, super fun. Very early game, but man, it's a lot of fun. Definitely would recommend checking it out. F1 Race. I could have seen F1 Race as a black box title, for sure, for the NES. It's in the name. It's an F1 racer. It's like a pole position. If they had pole position for the NES, this is a lot like that, and there's not a whole lot you need to say about a game like this. It's just, it plays like all those other racing games from the time, like a pole position, like a Rad Racer, I suppose. This one's more going around track, so it's less of a, more of a racing game than a driving game, but you just have to drive around and not blow up and not hit the other cars. It's F1 Race, and it could have been a black box game. I'm a little surprised it didn't. I'm a little surprised it didn't come out here in the United States. Maybe Rad Racer took that spot when the NES did come out. So we can't have 2 similar racing games. I don't know. Mappy, I am such a big fan of Mappy for sure. Loved this game. Love the music to it. Love the little ragtime sound to it. Got the mouse detective or police officer. Well, I never bothered looking up to see what he was. But then you got these cats, and they're going to get in your way, of course. But you can go through these doors and pick up all the items. When you pick up all the items, that is the end of that stage. You got these trampolines. Oh, and maybe you've played Mappy Land. Mappy Land came out for the US. Mappy Land came out for the NES. So this was like the first one. You had Mappy and then Mappy Land. And then there's Mappy Kids, and we'll cover that in a future video. But in this one, you can open the doors. Some of the doors will cause a little shock vibration thing to move the cats out of the way. It took me seeing the arcade machine probably 3 or 4 years ago. It took me seeing the arcade machine to realize you could close the doors behind you. I did not know you could do that. I never thought about it. I thought once you open the door, that was it, and it just leaves the door open. But you can actually close the doors behind you if you wish. You don't have to. But super fun, super addicting. The trampolines do have a limit to them. You can see them change color, and once Once you break that limit, if they're on the ground, you'll go through and that's game over for you, or you'll lose a life. But if they're on a higher level, you can use that to your advantage and break through to, get to where you need to go. And honestly, that's about it as far as the Famicom exclusives go. I mean, a couple of other ones not really worth mentioning between 1993 and 1994. And that's what started the Famicom, but if you want to see what started out on the NES back in 1985, you can check out this video in the meantime. Thank you for watching, and we'll do more videos coming up.